Aloha and welcome to the screencast where we're going to do our first practice WOD of the semester. This one's called Project Euler Problem 1. And the main goal of this is to get a little bit more comfortable using JS Fiddle and a little bit more comfortable doing workouts of the day. That means basically timing yourself as you solve a problem and hoping that you can solve it within the recommended amount of time. If not, then you can just try solving it again until you can do it fast enough. So we have a prelude to this before we actually get into the WOD, and the first part of it is to just read the first few sections of the Airbnb JavaScript style guide. So this is here, and the first few sections are about types, references in particular, using constant let. That's the main thing. And you can learn a little bit about objects and so forth. And you may be saying to yourself as you look through this, oh my God, there's so much stuff here. How am I ever supposed to remember? And the answer is, fortunately, as you use them, you will start to just unconsciously adopt a good style. But to support yourself in that learning process, later in the course, we're going to be using a tool called ESLint, which automatically enforces. It can parse the code and check that you're conforming to these best practices. And having a set of best practices is really useful because it's not enough to just solve a problem if you're a professional programmer. You have to solve it in a way that it can be tested, that it can be modified, that it can be understood by other humans. And so having a style guide which encapsulates a coherent set of best practices for how to write code is an important tool to make sure that you're writing code that other people can read and understand. Second thing, you're going to be using Chrome browser for this. That's just because your life will be so much easier in this class if you're using the same browser with the same set of tools that other people are using. Okay, so the next thing is to log into JS Fiddle. So if we go to jsfiddle.net, we get something that looks like this, and I've already logged in, so it comes up like this, but you could log out and you'll get something different. And what you'll see here is if we go to the settings, which I think is important to do, at least initially, is I like this particular configuration because it makes the JavaScript window as big as possible because they're tabs, so you don't see the other ones. And we're only using JavaScript for this class, with this tool for this class. You also want to make sure this is enabled, so there's a console at the bottom of the page. I don't know, I don't like this auto run stuff, so I turned it off. And I definitely want to show the boilerplates bar less often, so I've enabled that. So you should check this out. Main thing is console in the editor. And if you like one of these better, then you could use that. Okay, so you can see my console is down here. You can see the result window is like this. And if I hit the save, you can see that this result pane now turns white because that's when you display a web page and you don't provide any styling. That's the background color of the web page. So I just found that to be a little irritating. And so here's some CSS code that you can paste into the CSS pane. And if you do that, then you'll find that now I've made the background color of that window exactly the same color as the rest of the page. So that annoying white bar goes away. It's the result pane is still there. You can see, you can still find it and stuff, but it's not as intrusive. Okay, so that's all the stuff there. So now the actual WOD is going to be solve project 1 from Project Euler. You don't have to register. And the way we'll do that is to start a timer, create a JavaScript function called Project Euler 1, informally test, press save, etc. Okay, so first thing, let's bring up the problem, and to do that I'll open this link in a new tab so we can easily go back and forth. Here's the problem. If we list all the natural numbers below 10 that are multiples of 3 or 5, we get 3, 5, 6, and 9. The sum of these multiples is 23. So the real problem is to find the sum of all the multiples of 3 or 5 below 1,000. Now, if we go back to our problem spec, we want to informally test our program, okay? So, I don't know offhand what the sum of all these things below 1,000 is, but I do know what the sum of all the numbers below 10. It's 23. They're telling us that. So what we should do is we should write a function that takes a value, takes an argument like max val, and we can pass in that val and test with 10 to make sure that the function outputs 23. And if it does that, then we can pass it 1,000 and be reasonably confident that, for this simple problem, that it's going to compute the right answer. Okay, so that's probably what we'll do. And then, so the first step to doing this is to start the timer. I use a timer called Time, which is a THYME. It's a cute little free app for the Mac. If you're using Windows, I'm sure there's something else, or you could even use your watch. But, that just seems less sophisticated than a little app, in your computer. So anyway, so we'll start our timer. It's running. And so we're going to create a JavaScript function called Project Euler 1 to solve this problem. So go over here. And we'll say function project Euler 1. And we'll take, as I said before, we'll take this, have an argument called max val that enables us to test. Okay, and then we're supposed to output the total of summing up those things. So we're going to need a local variable, might as well call it total, initialize it to 0, and then we'll update that value whenever we see a number that should be added to. And the simplest way I can think of to do this is to say we'll kind of have a for loop with a counter that starts at 0 that is going to go until it's 1 less than max val, because the problem said list the numbers below 10, list the numbers below 1,000. So we can say less than max val, not less than or equal to. And then we can say I double plus to increment it. And then inside here, the idea is that it's got to be a multiple of 3 or 5 in order to be added to our total. So we have to say something like if I mod 3 equals 0, or I mod 5 equals 0, and let's just make this whole thing parentheses. So if either of those things are true, then we want to update total with the value of I. Okay, and then at the end, once we've computed that whole thing, we want to return total as the value. Okay, so there's our function. To test it, what we can say is console.log project Euler 1 10. And if we now hit run, we can see 23 results. And actually, it's kind of, I don't know why I was giving us those silly syntax things, but we could do run from here and then see it again. And that 23, I believe, was the number that was supposed to happen. So if we go back here and type in 1,000, which is what they really wanted to know, the answer is 233168. It's great. I've always wanted to know that. But at any rate, let's go back here. So we've informally tested. We've got to press the save button in order to create a URL. So we'll press this button. And now we've got a URL that we could share with the TA or whomever in order to do that. Stop your timer. 3 minutes, 29 seconds it took us to do this. Okay, so that's pretty good. And what I would say is, if it's taking you more than 6 to 8 minutes to do this, you probably want to just start again from scratch and try to make sure that you can get through this in less time. Okay, so that is Project Euler Problem 1. Hope you enjoyed that, and see you around.